Right now, this is how the Spokane River looks, along many parts rather barren. A local group of people wants to change that. They want it to look more like this. This is Eugene, Oregon, where they have a nationally known bike trail along their river.
Love it. Love it. I think it's a tremendous asset to this community.
While Eugene has had its trail for more than a decade now, Spokane has been talking about building one for just as long. But supporters feel that all the years of talk could now become reality, that the time may be right. Nearly 100 years ago, Spokane was founded along the shores of the river that bears its name. This is a picture of Upper Falls in 1885. Washington Water Power was already there. Here's one in 1884 of the Post Street Bridge. Spokane is linked to the river, not only physically, but in historic terms as well. In 1989, Spokane will have its Centennial celebration. Those who propose building a trail want to tie in to that celebration. They want to call it a Centennial Trail. Most of us have forgotten about the river, they say. It's time to bring the river back to the people.
Look at the number of people that run around the Washington Water Power. I mean, that's where I run, and that's really a neat place to run, and it's because you get to see the river and you're by the river, and the river has sort of a calming effect. And I think if you could take that little mile and a half trail on one side and extend it all the way up the river, it'd be phenomenal.
For some 17 miles, the trail would wind along the Spokane River, eventually stretching all the way from Riverfront Park to the state line.
We would like to have a good portion of it done by 1989 for the Centennial.
Part of the trail actually already exists, the city's portion. You've probably seen parts of it, like this jogging trail next to Washington Water Power on Upriver Drive. The bike portion of that extends all the way to Argonne Road, and that's where the Centennial Trail would pick up. The trail would actually be done in 3 phases. The first starting near Argonne Road and going almost 3 miles to Plants Ferry Park. Phase 2 would then start at the park and follow the river for another 3 miles to Sullivan Road. The final phase would go from Sullivan Road all the way to the state line.
I think we can expect to achieve at least half of our project by 1989 and primarily connect the city and the valley with this trail.
But first, money must be raised and the land acquired. All of the river's banks from Argonne Road all the way down to the state line are owned by the Inland Empire Paper Company, which of course is owned by Spokane's Coles family. They, in effect, bought the river a number of years ago so they could build a dam, if they ever needed to, as a source of power for the paper company. Negotiations are underway to buy the land from the Inland Empire Paper Company. That will be a major expense. So will building the trail. The latest estimates peg the cost of construction of a 12-foot wide trail at about $884,000. There would also be a cost for one-time only purchase of maintenance equipment. That's about $85,000. For a total initial construction cost of about $969,000. Add to that the price for the land. Then we could expect to spend about $105,000 a year on maintenance and operations. So how do supporters plan to raise money for the project? Well, there are several options. Individuals may be able to buy tiles or bricks that would be laid into the trail. Money from the sale of the tiles would go toward construction. Corporations could sponsor segments of the trail. Private foundations might be asked to help, and the county could go to the people for a general obligation bond. However the money is raised, supporters want the trail to have its own dedicated funding source. The main push for a Centennial Trail comes from the Valley's Chamber of Commerce. A special committee has been formed just to get the trail off and running. One of the things they're looking for are individuals or service organizations who want to help out.
If a service group wanted to build a picnic area, just to maybe a gazebo or a covered table and benches, that kind of thing would be ideal.
One of the groups that has thrown its support behind the trail is Future Spokane. Its president is Jack Garrity. He says it would bring the city and the county together.
That there wouldn't be any concrete barrier out there at Havana where the city limits are, and people would ride back and forth, and it'd just be it would be easier for the people in the valley to get into the city and for the people in the city to get out to the valley.
It would be a symbol, says Garrity, that we really are one people here in the Spokane region. Eugene, Oregon, population 105,000, home of the University of Oregon. If there's one thing that Eugene is known for, it's running. Some even call this the running capital of the world. And indeed, world-class runners like Mary Decker and Alberto Salazar even live here. People say once in a while you see them out training on the many miles of trails just like this. The trail stretches 20 miles along the Willamette River. Thousands of joggers, bikers, and walkers use it every day.
Sure.
The man in charge of the trail is Ernie Drapella. He loves to show it off, especially on his bike for two. Does it get heavy use? A lot of people use it?
Well, I guess it's all a matter of reference, but to our way of thinking, the numbers of people year-round are substantial, and if we were to lose a resource like this, it would really be a loss in the quality of life of this community.
According to actual counts taken by the city, up to 10,000 people a day have used the trail. That would be on a nice sunny Saturday or Sunday.
The runners will use it year-round, and the commuters rely on it heavily so they don't have to use the streets around the city.
A lot of the trail almost looks like a sidewalk, only a little bit bigger. It's made out of concrete and it's about 12 feet wide. When it was built in 1970, there was some opposition by motorists who wondered why they should have to subsidize bicyclists. However, there was little concern by environmentalists because, we're told, most of them are bikers.
It's part of my lifestyle. I hardly ever drive anymore.
But mostly, it is a place for the people of Eugene to hang out. And mostly, you hear this kind of comment.
I think it's a great investment, and I think it's one of the things that makes Eugene livable.
Eugene had a little help building this bicycle trail. The state legislature decided that 1% of all of its highway funds should go towards building bike trails. For Eugene, that meant that every dollar it raised was matched by a dollar from the state. And that's the difference between Oregon and Washington. We don't have such a law. Our money would have to be raised through a bond issue or private donations. Harder to do, but the people in Eugene think it's well worth it. In relationship to the money spent, is it a good investment?
Yes, it's when you consider the cost of a bike path compared to a road and so forth, and see the usage that we get, and a bike path really has rather limited maintenance needs.
And you get enough use out of it, even in the colder or cooler weather. We can run in a 50-degree day where you're not going to sit down and have a picnic in 50-degree weather.
Right.
So from that aspect, it gets more use than a normal park would get.
Like the people of Eugene, there are plenty of Spokanites who would use a trail for exercise and recreation.
Well, I think the more opportunities there are for people to run on trails where they don't have to be in with the traffic, the better it is, and just for runners generally. And of course we have, in the spring in particular, we have a lot of people getting ready for Bloomsday. So I think if you can have a good trail system, take advantage of the river, it would just be excellent.
I think one of the major advantages to this trail is that it gets cyclists and joggers off the road, off potential conflicts with motor vehicle traffic and the high-speed traffic in particular. I mean, I look at my preschool-age children. This will be a great place to teach them how to ride their bicycles.
Not only would people ride their bicycles for recreation, but for transportation, say supporters. They would become commuters on bikes. Would people use it, do you think, getting to and from work?
I think so. If you think about it, you know, that trail will go by or in the general vicinity of some major employment centers in the valley.
Employers like Kaiser Aluminum, ISC, and others. But with increased use comes possible problems. Some people fear the river's natural beauty might be destroyed.
The river, to me, belongs to the people of Spokane. And the more area that we have accessible for people to use, the better the river will stay.
Well, what it does for us is allow us a better opportunity to put our canoes and kayaks on the river, to be able to stop somewhere along the river where they plan some of the parks and the gardens for lunches, or for giving us a spot where we do our teaching, clinic teaching for canoeing and kayaking along the river. We think that's the benefit to us.
So what effect would a Centennial Trail have? Would it add to pollution in any way? The experts say probably not. That's based, though, on two assumptions. The first is, as long as the trail is constructed so no sediments or erosion would go into the river.
The other is that there's the potential for primarily aesthetic problems with people throwing litter, trash, or whatever from off the trail into the river itself. That in and of itself would have a minimal water quality impact. It would be more aesthetic.
So you don't think it's really going to have an impact at all, really?
None that I could foresee at this point.
Oh, I don't think so. I think it would enhance the beauty, because I think as people come to use the trail, they come closer to the river, they see the river, and they appreciate the beauty of the river. And one then can only respond by keeping it clean and enjoying it and saving it for future generations.
Supporters of the proposed Centennial Trail say that it makes good business sense, too, that the quality of life attracts business.
I think so. I feel really very confident that it would, because when some of these companies that are building, that have been built around here and are adding to, one of the things that they're very interested in is quality of life.
And perhaps another thing about a Centennial Trail that sets it apart is that it would follow the course of the Spokane River.
You know, the river is really our past, our present, and our future.